Well, Alice said, setting the magazine down on their card table office desk. It looks like we have company. Zach peered at the ad, his easy smile tightening at the edges. Phoenix Ascending sounds more like a bad sci-fi movie than a balloon company. But the ad was just the beginning. Within a week, Phoenix Ascending's presence was everywhere. They had billboards along the main highway, a slick website with professionally shot videos, and a fleet of brand new chase vehicles. Their owner was a man named Rex Thorne, a ruthless entrepreneur with a portfolio of successful but soulless tourism ventures. Thorne didn't just want to compete, he wanted to dominate. The first direct hit came when a lucrative corporate booking they had been finalizing for a month abruptly canceled. "I'm sorry, Alice," the event planner told her over the phone, her voice apologetic. Phoenix Ascending came in with an offer we couldn't refuse, 30% less than your quote, 30%. It was an impossibly low number. "They're trying to price us out of the market," Zach said, pacing the small office. "They can afford to lose money for a few months to drive us under." The pressure mounted. Bookings began to slow. Customers would call for a quote, then hesitate. "I'll have to call you back," they'd say. Phoenix Ascending has a 2-for-1 special this month. The easy camaraderie between Alice and Zach began to fray under the strain. The quiet confidence that had defined their partnership was replaced by a tense, worried energy. The endless sky, which had once seemed full of promise, now looked like a battlefield they were in danger of losing. A cloud had appeared on their perfect horizon, and it was threatening to turn into a storm. Chapter 28, Mel's Inspection. Mel Sharples did not handle Alice's success well. He was proud of her in his own grumpy, inarticulate way, but he also missed her with an intensity that surprised even him. The diner felt off balance without her steady presence. Bambi, despite her best efforts, had the organizational skills of a startled squirrel. Vera was spending more time psychoanalyzing the customers than serving them, and Jolene's charm could only smooth over so many kitchen disasters. He decided one slow Wednesday morning that he needed to see for himself what all the fuss was about. He couldn't just call and ask. That would be admitting he was worried, or worse, that he missed her. So he concocted a plan. He would go undercover. He called Desert Skies Balloon Tours from a payphone, deepening his voice and introducing himself as Art Vandelay, an importer-exporter considering a new business venture. Alice on the other end was completely professional, though she noted the caller had a suspiciously gravelly voice and a strange obsession with whether or not chili would be served on the flight. The following Sunday, Art Vandelay arrived for his sunrise flight. He was wearing a trench coat, a fedora pulled down low, and the same dark sunglasses he had worn for his disastrous reconnaissance mission at the Comet Diner. He looked less like an importer-exporter and more like a fugitive from a 1,940 seconds gangster movie. Alice recognized him instantly. The cheap cigar clenched in his teeth was a dead giveaway. She played along, greeting Mr. Vandelay with a polite, professional smile, while Zach, who was prepping the balloon, shot her a bewildered look. The flight was a comedic masterpiece of Mel's own making. He complained that the wicker basket felt flimsy and suggested it could use some steel reinforcement. He eyed the propane tanks with deep suspicion, asking Zach if he'd had those things checked out by a professional. "I am a professional, Mr. Vandelay," Zach replied, his patience wearing thin. Mel's most valuable contribution, however, was unintentional. He had been seated next to a young couple who were chattering excitedly about their vacation. "This is amazing," the woman said, looking out at the sprawling desert below. "But you know, we almost went with that other company, Phoenix Ascending. Their prices are incredible." Yeah, her husband agreed. But I read some reviews online. They said the pilots seemed bored and they crammed so many people into the basket you can't even see the view. And they charge you extra for water. Mel's ears perked up. He leaned in, his undercover persona forgotten. "They charge for water," he growled. "That's a racket. Even I give them free water." The couple stared at him confused. When they landed, Mel pulled Alice and Zach aside, his trench coat flapping in the breeze. "All right, forget the Art Vandelay nonsense," he said. "Here's the deal. Your competition is cheap, they're crowded, and they nickel and dime their customers. That's their weakness." He had come to inspect, to criticize, to find fault. But in the end, he had given them exactly what they needed, a clear, concise analysis of their enemy's weak spot. It was in its own strange way, his way of helping. Chapter 29, the price war Mel's intelligence report confirmed what Alice had suspected, but it also sparked the first major disagreement of their partnership. "We have to fight back," Zach said that afternoon, pacing the hangar office. He was a pilot, a man of action, and the passive waiting was driving him crazy. If they're cutting prices, we have to cut them too. We'll offer a bigger discount. We'll throw in a free t-shirt. We have to get competitive. "No," Alice said, her voice firm. She was sitting at the card table, staring at their meticulously organized budget spreadsheet. "We can't, Zach. Look at these numbers. Our margins are already thin. We're a small new business. We can't win a price war against a guy like Rex Thorne. He'll bleed us dry and not even notice." "So what are we supposed to do?" he demanded, his frustration boiling over. "Just sit here and watch him steal all our customers." "We don't fight him on his terms," she argued, standing up to face him. "We fight him on ours." Mel was right. Their weakness isn't their price, it's their experience. They're selling a cheap commodity, we're selling a premium memory. We can't be the cheapest, so we have to be the best. And how do we do that? He shot back. "Our balloon is just as big as theirs, the sunrise is the same." "It's not about the sunrise, it's about how you see it," she insisted. "It's about the little things. The champagne, the strawberries, the fact that you know the names of every mountain range. It's about not being crammed into a basket like sardines. It's about personal attention. It's the Mel's Diner approach to ballooning." The reference to her old life hung in the air between them. He saw her as a businesswoman, a partner. But deep down, was he still the same Zach Stratton who thought a pretty little head couldn't understand aerodynamics? "The Mel's Diner approach," he said, a flicker of his old condescension in his tone. "What does that mean? We serve greasy chili at 5,000 feet." The word stung, hitting a nerve she didn't even know was exposed. "It means we care about our customers, which is more than I can say for your old business model, which was based on big numbers and notches on the basket." The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. It was a low blow, a weapon pulled from a past they had both tried to leave behind. Zach's face hardened. "That's not fair, Alice." "Isn't it?" she countered, her voice trembling slightly. "You want to compete on price on volume. That's the old Zach, the Zach who was all about quantity, not quality." The office was silent, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Their partnership, which had felt so strong and easy, suddenly felt as fragile as a soap bubble. They weren't just arguing about business strategy, they were arguing about who they were and who they trusted each other to be. The storm had finally broken, not in the sky, but right there in their small, cluttered corner of the hangar. Chapter 30, An Alliance in the Air. They spent the next day in a state of cold, polite tension. They spoke only when necessary, their conversations clipped and professional. The easy warmth that had grown between them was gone, replaced by a careful, guarded distance. Alice buried herself in the financial records, while Zach spent the entire day outside, needlessly polishing the wicker on the gondola. The stalemate was broken by an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Walden arrived at the hangar, a determined look on her face and a large insulated picnic basket in her hand. "All right, you two," she announced, setting the basket down with a thud. "Melvin told me you were having a tiff. He said you were arguing about whether to be cheap or to be good. I'm here to tell you that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard." She opened the picnic basket. Inside were 2 steaming thermoses and a stack of freshly baked pastries. The familiar comforting scent of good coffee and cinnamon filled the tense office. "Good is never cheap, and cheap is never good," she said, pouring them each a cup of coffee. "You have something special here. This boy," she said, pointing a pastry at Zach, "can fly a balloon like nobody's business. And you," she said, turning to Alice, "have a head on your shoulders that could run a small country. You don't win a fight by becoming the person you're fighting. You win by being so completely wonderfully yourself that they look like a pale imitation." She took a bite of her pastry. "Now I hear you're looking for a way to be better. So I have a proposition. You want to offer a premium experience, I will provide it. I will cater a gourmet breakfast for your flights. Quiche fresh fruit, my world-famous strudel. We'll call it Breakfast with Debbie at dawn." Alice and Zach stared at her, then at each other. It was a crazy idea. It was a brilliant idea. "But who will cook?" Alice asked. "I will, of course," Mrs. Walden said, "but I'll need an assistant. Someone strong with a good palate who isn't afraid of a little hard work. A wicked gleam appeared in her eye. "I'll need Melvin." The thought of Mel Sharples working as a sous chef for his culinary rival was so ludicrous, so impossible, that Alice started to laugh. Zach joined in, and suddenly the tension that had been gripping them for days finally broke. Convincing Mel was a diplomatic mission of the highest order. Alice found him at the diner grumbling about the price of onions. "Absolutely not," he said when she pitched the idea. "I am not playing second fiddle in some flying kitchen for that woman." "It's not for her, Mel," Alice said quietly. "It's for me. I need your help. We need your help." He looked at her, at the woman who had been his right hand for a decade, who was now out on her own, fighting to build a new life. He saw the plea in her eyes, the same determination he had seen 100 times before. His loyalty a force as stubborn and powerful as his pride won out. "Fine," he grumbled, "but I'm in charge of the chili, and I'm wearing my own hat." And so the unlikeliest of alliances was formed. The following weekend, Desert Skies Balloon Tours launched its first diner in the Skyflight. The passengers were treated to a breathtaking sunrise, followed by a gourmet breakfast served at 3,000 feet. Mrs. Walden in a chef's coat presided over the quiche, while Mel in his sailor hat ladled out small, elegant cups of his surprisingly refined sunrise chili. The flight was a massive success. The story of the two rival chefs teaming up to cater a hot air balloon breakfast was a public relations dream. A local news station ran a feature on them. The blogosphere buzzed. Bookings for the Diner in the Sky package sold out for the next 3 months. They hadn't just weathered the storm, they had learned to fly in it, using the combined strengths of their strange, wonderful extended family to lift them higher than they had ever been before.